Welcome to the channel, guys. We are back again for another fragrance review, and today I'm going to be talking about none other than Chanel Allure Homme Sport, so stay tuned for that. And if you like fragrance reviews, cologne comparisons, top 10 lists, and fragrance battles, hit that subscribe button for more great content. So one of the, most well-known lines of fragrances from Chanel is the Allure line. There's a lot of different fragrances in there. There's Sport, there's Cologne, there's the regular Allure, there's Eau Extreme for the Allure Homme Sport. But I'm actually going to talk about Allure Homme Sport, and this is one that I think is overlooked a lot, especially in favor of the Eau Extreme. I haven't actually worn or tried the Eau Extreme for a long time, but I can tell you that for me anyways, when I first tried it, I found it to be a little overwhelming, but I did get a sample of Allure Homme Sport at some point, and I found out that I really enjoyed it, in contrast to the Eau Extreme, which I guess for me was just a little bit, maybe too much or a little too screechy. It's funny that somebody mentioned on the Facebook group that, he sprayed a fragrance, and his wife really liked it when she smelled it in the air, but up close she thought it was horrible. And I think that's kind of the vibe I get with Eau Extreme. Especially, I find this can be true for many Chanel fragrances, that they smell really good from a little bit of a distance, but if you smell them really up close, they're kind of harsh. I find this of like Bleu de Chanel EDP, very harsh up close, smells good in the air. But the Parfum, on the other hand, which I prefer, smells good even up close. Now, Allure Homme Sport is the one that came before Eau Extreme, obviously. And I'm going to talk about this one today. Now, this one does, at least for me, I do find that it's not as screechy up close, and that's one of the things that drew me to it. But what do I overall get with this fragrance? This one is, described as kind of a sweet aquatic fragrance. And in the opening, I do get a lot of orange. Now, one thing I'm actually going to point out here that I found was very strange is the sample that I had. I don't know if anybody else has really experienced this, but I think I've had this happen a couple of times. You get a sample, and it's an official sample, like from the boutique, whatever. Smells great. Then you buy a bottle, and it doesn't actually smell the same. Like, quite different. And it's not like it just smells like a lower quality fragrance. It does smell like a different fragrance. And there's a lot of differences between this and the sample that I had. The biggest difference is that I found that the sample was a lot zestier, a lot more of almost a tart orange. And I do like that in a fragrance. So I love Terre de Hermes Eau Très Fraîche. Now this one, it doesn't have that as much. And it's funny because, like I said, this is an official bottle. I did buy this straight from Chanel, but it does definitely smell different. Now I still enjoy it, but the orange in the opening is nowhere near as zesty as the sample that I had. It does have a little bit of a zest to it. Maybe this just bottle hasn't matured enough, isn't aged enough, or maybe there's been a little bit of reformulation. But what I actually get is much more of a sort of a slight sweetness with a very juicy mandarin orange kind of vibe. And it is actually really, really nice, and especially right off the initial rip. It's another thing that I like about this fragrance is it doesn't have any bite on the first spray. Oftentimes a fragrance will, this one does not. But, right off the first rip, that orange is very crisp, very prominent, and it is most certainly quite realistic as well. So I do really like that about this fragrance. It has a very nice, very juicy, realistic top note of an orange. The orange to me comes across slightly aquatic. So this does have aquatic notes in it. I wouldn't really term this as overly aquatic. It doesn't come across like something like Acqua di Gio Profondo. But there is something about that orange, that juiciness, that comes along with a slight aquatic vibe. I do also get a little bit of a jelly vibe. Now, it's kind of strange to point that out, that it gives me this texture of like a jello-y texture. And this is a texture that I do get in a certain number of fragrances, and I think, it is something that I actually also pick up a little bit with Bleu de Chanel. And so, smelling this one, they smell quite different, but it seems to me almost like Bleu de Chanel was a natural, like, next step. But this one, again, it does have that beautiful orange. I get a little bit of a slight, I even get a little bit sometimes of a slight green facet. Now, it's not overly green, it just smells more like the orange is still on the tree. where you get this very slight vibe of greenness that could be a little bit leafy. And that sweetness from the base, so this does have, I believe, tonka in the base, is there from the beginning. But it's not very prominent in the opening, which is nice, because one of the things that I found about, say, Allure Homme Cologne was that it had too much of a weird aquaticness mixed with this sweetness and this creaminess. And this does have a lot of those components. This fragrance does have a lot of those components in it. But the thing is that it doesn't mix them quite the same way. I mean, L'Homme Ideal Cologne mixes them together all at once. This, you get, yes, a little bit of sweetness, but this opens up mostly with this juicy orange. Very nice and realistic. Slightly kind of greenish vibe. Sort of leafy, but very slight. And under all that, there's this little hint of creaminess, a little hint of sweetness. But it's not overwhelmingly so. And this one definitely starts to tone down with respect to that kind of aquatic vibe that it has. And a little bit of that orange stays. And that's when the creaminess really starts to become a little bit more pronounced. And I think it's really the biggest thing for me with this one is the phasing, where it starts off a little bit more aquatic and moves into this nice creamy territory that makes it work well. But in any case, as this one transitions, it does maintain a little bit of that orange vibe. And you get this really, really nice sensual creaminess. And the creaminess does come across a little bit. It does border at times to me on smelling like food. Like sometimes I'll pick it up and it smells a little bit like, like a lemon cake of some kind. Or like an orangey kind of a cake. And I do sometimes get a little bit of lemon in this, although I'm pretty sure that is not a listed note. But again, there's something about this fragrance that gives me that impression, and to me also makes sense on how they made the Edition Blanche. Because honestly, it's just a little bit of a step in that direction. A little bit more of a step in that direction than this fragrance here. So again, a very natural flanker, I think. It took that facet, that element of it that it has here, that this fragrance has, and really made it the center stage. So there is this stage of this where it has this very nice, sensual, almost kind of gourmandy, very foodie type of vibe. And I actually really, really enjoy that about this fragrance. And I will get into how I think that works well with the fragrance, but really that's more or less what I get, and it does sift into a little bit more of a creaminess as that sort of that tangy kind of, whipped kind of vibe that it has drifts away. I mean, there is a certain kind of food that I can't really think of the name of it right now for whatever reason that it really, really reminds me of when it's at that creamy stage, when it's at that sort of gourmandy stage. But very nicely done fragrance, very well executed, and I think that it is something that's overshadowed a lot by the Eau Extreme. But I actually really like this one. I prefer this one, and it is the one I decided to pick up. I do like the 50 ml too. It's a little bit, you know what? It's a cute bottle. I will say that. I can say it. You know what it is, and it is. But anyways, like that one. The performance of this one is good, so it does have actually quite good longevity. I would get at least 8 hours every time that I wore this. Especially recently, so I am judging it off this particular bottle, not any other samples that I've had, but this particular one. And I did buy this direct from Chanel, about a month ago at the most, and so I can be confident that this is a new batch, and this represents what Allure Homme Sport is like right now. Projection, I will say, not the best. So if you want something really, really loud, this is not going to be it. It does project well for the first between hour to 2 hours. It does have some nice projection, but this one definitely tones down a lot. And especially once you pass that 6 hour mark, I've found every single time without fail, once it's getting past that 6 hour mark, it's a very close skin scent. Still there, so I count it in the longevity, but it's definitely not really projecting at all. It does, after that 2 hour, get a lot closer to the skin. So if you want something that's really, really going to project and going to project for a long time, this isn't going to be it. But it does offer good projection for a while, and then a nice, little bit more subtle, definitely more subtle, scent bubble or scent cloud. So This one is also fairly versatile. I know I featured this on, I believe, Most Versatile Designer, and that's because honestly you can wear this one virtually any occasion and it works. It is a Swiss Army knife in that way. And one thing that's actually nice about this is the way it transitions can really make it good for certain occasions. So even for something like a date, I think this is nice because it's very fresh up top, very uplifting, energetic, but it does move into this creamy, sensual territory. And of course, if you're going to end up getting a little closer as the night goes on, it's nice to have that transition into something that's a little bit, I guess, more sensual. But it is also very mass appealing, very easy to wear. It is a classic fragrance, and it's one that I think if people smell on you, they're generally going to enjoy. So it does have that ability to wear it in the office. It's not overly loud. It's not, at the same time, not subtle, but it is not overly loud, and it's kind of mass appealing. And that's, generally speaking, for an indoor office space anyways, two of the things that I, of course, look for. And it has both of those things. And, you can just wear it day to day when you're going out, when you're doing whatever. It has that kind of sporty vibe, so you can wear it somewhere even, especially in the gym, especially because it is a lot more fresher for that first hour to 2 hour mark before it starts to get noticeably creamier. And, I don't know about you, but generally speaking, I don't work out for more than 2 hours. You might spend hours upon hours in the gym and need something or want something a little bit fresher. Who knows? But I think it can be worn pretty much any occasion quite well. So this, I think, aside from Bleu de Chanel Parfum, this is my favorite Chanel. Although I do really like... So anyways, guys, I think I'm going to cut the video there. Leave a comment down below what is your favorite Chanel fragrance. And as always, don't forget to like and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next video.